Um, I think it's a great milestone that you enabled registry deployment, or rather registry running on staging, which is pretty amazing in my opinion. But what I want to see from this discussion is you running me through the whole, all the repositories that we have, how things are being deployed, where I need to look for things, right? Like what kind of things you did to get the Grafana dashboard created, not the Grafana dashboard itself, right? Like everything under it to serve that Grafana dashboard. And like basically just run me through the whole new infra you created for this purpose. And what I want to know also is version changes. What do we do? Like, how do we, right now I know it's manual, right? But I want to just discuss with you guys, like, how does this look to see how we can take the next step with this infra. Does that make sense? Or I'm asking too much?
I think that makes perfect sense. I don't think you're asking too much. I think if anything, you're asking too little.
Oh, okay. What do you need? Like, what do you have more in mind?
I guess we'll find out as you start asking questions and get concerned when you find the red flags that show up as we discuss this stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. And I'm kind of expecting both you and Jarv to lead this conversation because you work together on it.
Okay.
Share screens.
Sure, I can start, and then how about I take the first part, Skarbek, and then you can take over. So let me share my desktop. So hopefully you can see that. First thing we'll show you is we obviously have mirrors of various projects on ops.gitlab.net. We're going to look at the gitlab.com projects first. So we have the K workloads group, which is where we're going to have repositories, projects for every chart that we install on the GKE cluster. So we have one GKE cluster per environment, and then we have one project per chart. That's sort of the way we have it structured now. It may change later. We're only installing two charts. Right now, we have the monitoring chart, which is Prometheus operator for Prometheus metrics, and then we have the GitLab chart, which is called GitLab-com. Both of these projects use a single image in this common project in the registry. So we have a pipeline here that whenever you make a change to either the common CI config, or we have some common scripts, whenever you make a change, it builds a new image. Then the other projects use the latest image.
Show me tags. Show me registry in that project.
Sure. Oh, here it is.
Oh, we are using latest. Ooh, okay.
So I guess I think we went back and forth on this. Right now we're using latest just out of convenience. We can create a tag, but I think I'd like to wait until things are a little bit more stable, and then maybe we'll create like a version 1 tag, and then we can bump the versions.
As long as we think about the system where, you know, one change is not going to unlock a bunch of things. So we need to have this version, but no, it's good. While we are prototyping and moving, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So the base image basically installs Helm, installs, the kubectl, installs some other packages.
Show me the image or the Docker file.
Sure. So, so basically this. So you see it installs local tiller for Helm, installs kubectl, installs kubeval, and some other things. We actually have this image being built on both GitLab.com and ops, because we have pipelines that run on GitLab.com and we have pipelines that run on ops. The ones that run on GitLab.com are more for just like checking to make sure everything is okay. the pipelines that run on ops are for actually deploying an update. So I'm going to give you a quick on the left here in this terminal. I'm in GitLab.com. We have some helper scripts. These may change, but basically these are just small, lightweight wrappers for install, list, remove, template, and upgrade. These are the commands. I think I'm probably gonna, or I think we might just collapse these into a single script. You can see that they're fairly short. They just source some common scripts. If I do like list, you can these either get run in CI or locally, and you basically give it an environment. When it's run in CI, the environment is derived from the pipeline environment. But since we're running it locally, you have to specify it. So if I do this, what it does is it fetches the common functions, sources them, runs some pre-checks, make sure everything is installed locally that you need. It automatically switches your kubectl context using kubectl CTX. That only happens locally since we don't need to do that in pipelines, but it's quite handy. And you can see for the Helm list, we have both GitLab and GitLab monitoring. And then we can also do something like upgrade, environment, gstage. What that's going to do is, since we're in the GitLab.com project, it's going to clone the charts repo, and it's going to do a Helm upgrade using the values files that we have set for the pre-prod environment.
Right. Okay. Problem number 2, I'm writing down. We are pulling from charts, GitLab.io, and that is GitLab pages, meaning GitLab pages outage would cause failure in deployment.
Right.
That's fine. No, it's like, this is not production ready yet, right? We are getting there. So
this was just a Helm upgrade. So let's say if we had a configuration change, what we would do is we have values.yaml and gstage.yaml. We'll have one YAML environment.
Perfect.
So this is like the global, like you have a bunch of stuff here. You can see that like a lot of things are disabled because we're only running registry right now. And then this is the custom values for staging. So if I just change, like I could just change this to foo and then do it. And then if I did another upgrade, then it would apply that change. Another option is that I can commit this change on a branch. So let's submit the merge request here. So on GitLab.com, there really isn't much going on here. We just have shell check for like these shell wrappers. I think what we can also do is some more checking. Scarbeck discovered that Helm upgrade has a dry run mode, but Scarbeck, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said it's pretty much useless, right?
It doesn't provide me any information that tells me whether or not the changes that I'm introducing are actually, none of the changes I'm introducing are being shown. So like if we added the alert manager stuff, none of that showed up in the dry run.
So that kind of sucks, but we could in theory at least add a dry run stage to GitLab.com. It would require us having credentials on GitLab.com, which are currently over only on ops, but we could do that. But anyway, so now the pipeline does the check here, and then we can go over to ops, and then I'll go to GitLab.com. I'm going to have to go to my branch. And hey, mirroring actually worked. That's good. So you can see here that there are 2 deploy jobs, one for DR and one for staging. I thought, are these the dry runs, Scarbeck, or are these actual?
These are just the dry runs.
Because they're in branches, right?
Yes, because we're on a branch, these are the dry runs. And when we merge the master, there'll be a manual job to actually apply it. Another cool thing that we have.
What's the reason for manual when you merge master?
because I'm cautious right now, I don't know.
Okay.
I guess for now, maybe we should just make it automatic. I'm not sure if we want to do that.
We
or
don't
not.
have it set for manual right now.
Oh, I thought I had it set for manual at one point.
No.
Maybe.
Not for these at
Okay.
least.
Can
Once
you
we
show-
merge to master, it just performs an upgrade as is.
Show the master, one pipeline on master.
Sure.
Let's see what happens there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it upgrades.
So these are the dry runs. Yeah. So it upgrades automatically.
Open one. Yeah.
Sure. So basically, it's just running the.
Can I suggest to run the upgrade after the dry run, and in another stage? Otherwise, they're just concurrently doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, you probably want the dry run to pass before you actually do the upgrade. Though the dry run is run on a branch.
Right, but you can merge multiple things.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
After,
Because
right?
of this.
Yeah. Can you take a note for that, Marin, if you're taking?
Yeah, I am taking notes.
Cool. So that's pretty much all we have as far as like the CI automation. Another neat thing we can do here is there's a wrapper called template, and it has the same option. What this will do is extract all of the configuration into a manifest directory, which is get ignored, and that allows you to kind of see everything that the Helm chart is configuring. So you can see it wrote a bunch of files. Now we have this manifests, and in here we have all of the generated YAML files, but these won't be committed to Git. They're just ignored, but they're useful when you're working locally. I find like my workflow has been like, okay, I need a new configuration thing in the chart. I make a branch in the charts repo. I make a change. Then there's an environment variable that you can say, like, instead of using master of charts, use a branch name. And so then I can generate the config like this, check it out, make sure it looks okay. Okay, it looks okay. Then I can do the upgrade with my branch if I want to, or wait until it gets merged to master.
Jar, I have another question. This wrapper script that you showed us are switching your kubectl context, right? So this is permanent after the thing. I'm quite sure, at least it was there before, that the Helm binaries has two options for setting the context only for the specific run, so that you don't the environment on local.
That would be really good. Yeah, this was kind of a hack I put in a while ago. I think like, yeah, it kind of sucks too because like it changes your context in your current shell, you know.
Yeah,
so
then you forget and then delete something on production.
Yeah, so if Helm has that option, that would be good to do. Yeah.
Alessio, I pasted the doc in our channel. Could you please add that?
Sure.
I think like, I'm not sure what to touch on next. Do you want to look at the monitoring config, or do you want to look at the registry config? Or
can you just humor me here, and can you downgrade registry on staging to an older version?
I don't think that's easy to do.
Should be easy to do. You need to replace the image.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how to do that.
Let's try together. We'll figure it out. I don't remember as well. Haven't deployed in a while.
So is this something you just have to set in the chart?
In values or in G staging, I guess, because this is where you're overriding, right? So I think you'll need to open up a different, open up a window and go to a registry chart. I think we specify image to be pulled from, I don't remember. I need to open it as well.
Okay.
I'm super rusty on it.
GitLab.
It's the third one from the bottom, dude.
Yeah, the camel case threw me off. And then charts. and registry, and then values.
All right.
So
So
Looks
maybe,
like image.tag is what we need to set probably.
image probably got that. Yeah.
and does anyone know what the last version was?
I think 270 is a safe bet.
Oh, 270. Okay, you're right.
Okay. So let's try it. So we'll just do try dry run first.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I am super happy you are doing this Jarv locally as well. I've been trying to figure out like whether it's going to be like super difficult to do or not, like local development. So theoretically, you can just set up a different cluster, connect to it, cube CTX,
Yeah.
and you can do your changes there.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that over like Minikube, like maybe just setting up a like having the pipeline.
For now, let's do it that way because I don't want to go into on my machine I don't have this dependency installed properly and still stuff is falling apart.
So this is probably not going to tell us anything.
No, it won't. Like the best way to get this information is to probably do a template and look at the deployment config.
Can we query what version of registry? Can we ask registry what version it is now?
Yeah, just do a get on the either deploy or the pods that are running.
You can you can also exec into it in registry version into the pods if you want to.
Okay, so I don't know that off the top of my head.
Did you deploy on staging?
Yeah, it's deployed on staging.
Okay.
Like we can do get pods or GitLab and we'll see it.
Just do a get on one of the specific pod names.
Like this.
Or put the O flag in YAML. Sorry.
Like that?
Yep. Yeah. And somewhere in there, we should see the image that's being used, and we should
can also grep registry.
Yeah.
Tag.
It's 271, I think. Is it possible?
Yeah, grep. Yeah, if you grep for image. Yep.
Okay, so let's try the downgrade then.
Yeah. If we are downgrading, we should probably call this change /bin/change instead of upgrade.
Yeah.
All right.
That pod should not exist if we change the version of the image that's running.
Right. So.
The fact that you're getting data back worries me that nothing actually changed.
Well, it takes time to roll it, right? So let's not give up just yet.
Crash loop.
It's crash looping.
Yeah, because it's in crash loop, the new one, so the old one.
Perfect. Let's debug a bit. Let's see what's happening. So do logs on or something. Yeah, sure.
Can you do a k-describe pods maybe? And then
give it the pod name, yeah.
Yeah, let's try this.
Get the namespace.
Thanks.
We'll have to run the log command to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't remember the syntax for that. So that's like K logs.
Logs, I think.
And give it the name of the pod.
And then the name and then namespace.
Yeah.
Storage driver not registered, GCS. I think this was a bug in 270.
Oh, great.
So let me just double check. What's the error? Storage drive not registered. I think there was a bug. Yeah, exactly. 270 GCS storage driver not registered, which means we downgraded.
So
It failed.
Downgraded successfully.
Yeah, we did. Exactly. So this is success. So here is the, I'll put it in the doc. Here is the actual bug.
And I assume then that's the registry is still running, right? Because you still have other pods.
It's serving still the 271,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, great.
All right, that works.
So with this approach, we are never using the Helm rollback feature. We are just going on a next version.
Yeah.
Duration. Okay.
Helm rollback, as far as I remember, when I worked on this last year, had a lot of problems. Like a lot of things would stay just in an undefined state, or it wouldn't clean up correctly, or it was just a mess. I don't know whether they've improved it a lot, I think, since then, but back then it was just a mess.
Okay.
We should probably just play with that a bit as well, see what we can leverage from it now. All right, that is great. Can you, or Skarbek, can you run me through logs? Our logs should be showing this error somewhere, right?
Oh, that's a good question. Did we set up logging yet on staging, Skarbek?
I set it up as similar as possible to the pre-environment, but I did not validate that logging was working when I completed that mess.
Perfect.
So I do not know for sure.
Let's see. Run us through it.
So this is for pre-prod. We'll just need to add the index. It's not a good sign.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think this is for pre. Yeah. So yeah, we don't have logs. We could maybe we could get them in Stackdriver. Let's just take a look.
Scarpa, how much work is it to edit now?
I would need to work with Jarv. He did the primary portion of that part, so I'm not really sure what's going on wrong.
Let's okay. Let's see Stackdriver right now, and then I wouldn't mind sitting through the two of you doing this live on camera. That's the whole point of this call, by the way.
So I think it's
Registry is down there.
yeah, I think I saw it. So unfortunately, the log is extremely chatty.
Mm-hmm.
These are the health checks.
Mm-hmm.
There
There we go.
it is. So yeah, I mean, there's really nothing special here because we have what we do is we configure what's called a log sync in Stackdriver, which just forwards it directly to PubSub, which then gets picked off and forwarded to Elasticsearch. So I have pretty high confidence once we get the the PubSub thing working again or working for staging, then we should have logs.
Okay. Can you show me? Would monitoring pick any of this up? Like we had a failure, one pod failed.
I don't think so because we have nothing that's monitoring. Maybe.
We have cube state metrics is enabled, so I'd have to relearn how to query it, but we should be able to find the fact that a pod was sitting in a crash loop for a period of time.
That is pretty much necessary at this stage.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. I just used a like a default dashboard for Kubernetes, and I don't know. I think we'll need to take a look, but yeah, I think this is something we should figure out.
Yeah, maybe we need some kind of check for what we wrote in the chart and what is actually deployed, because the service was still running. We had 2 pods serving, but was not in the right version.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to see a lot of those.
Yes.
So I think for me, honestly, monitoring-wise, that's a minimum before we even consider sending any traffic to this, because we are running something very, very much new, and we are using like several layers of stuff. So luckily for us, registry is not changing that fast, or rather, I don't know whether it's lucky, but let's say the versions we are not bumping that often. So we have time to play with this, but would like to see that.
And luckily, we know how to make the registry crash. So
yeah, there we go.
We have the perfect perfect test for it. Yeah.
All right. It is past our start. I am curious to hear if there is anything else that you would like to share, Skarbek, maybe.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing, Skarbek, if you'd like to talk a bit.
Do you want me to roll through some of the terraforming related material?
Sure, that works as well.
Okay. Some of this you've seen before, so I don't know if this is going to be repetitive or what.
Yeah, let me then, like if this is just you showing me at the beginning that we had the discussion about how the clusters are provisioned, that we don't need to do right now.
Oh, yeah, that was what I was going to show, so maybe
okay.
It's repetitive.
No, that we already had that, so let's move on. All right, I saw. Maybe talk about how would we upgrade our charts automatically? Right now, it is whatever is currently in this project, right? Like then we pull, if I understand correctly, we have GitLab.com workloads project, right? And that pulls from charts whenever we make a change. What version does it pull of charts? The tag version?
Jarv, where is that at inside of the
We currently we're just like cloning the master branch of the charts repo.
Okay.
We shouldn't do this. We should use like a release version. We just haven't.
Well,
yeah. Unfortunately,
we're doing that now on GitLab.com.
Yeah, things are very yeah, like Yeah, I mean, like we're constantly making updates to the charts right now, so we need the latest bleeding edge stuff.
Yeah, we do, because compared to Omnibus, it's just a new project, right? Like Omnibus has years of stabilization.
Prior to using the Helm tiller, the script that I created would clone a specific version. We've got a file called GitLab charts version sitting in that repo. Right now, that file is just kind of sitting there. It's not being used anymore. When we switched to the Helm tiller, we just stopped looking at that particular version file. So we could probably quickly add that capability.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this. Inside of GitLab.com workloads project, we just pulled the latest Helm charts master, and any change that is merged into the stable branch will just deploy to certain environments depending on where we are going with it. And that is pretty much it, like as simple as that. How would we not do anything? As in, with auto deploy, what we are doing is we are basically not doing much ourselves. We are depending on other projects. What I'm thinking about here is if we think that Helm charts are going to be the source of truth for us, how do we ensure that any change that happens inside of that repository propagates to our environments? And let's say, for the sake of argument, it wouldn't go to staging. It could go to any test environment that we create. So say we propagate change through 2 or 3 environments before we even get to staging, but do that automatically without us touching anything, and depending on the developers to make changes and make tests and get the dashboards, use them before we even come into play on how are we going to deploy to staging pre and prod. Am I making any sense?
Your question's clear. Is something that I have not given any thought to in the past. Right now, like I mentioned before, the templates was using a specific version that was a file that it would read to figure out what version to pull. We would have to think about how we want to approach that in the future.
Any ideas on, like, from prior lives?
Not from me.
Not necessarily like experience, but the things that you've read, heard are good to do.
Marin, but you are talking about doing something like trigger pipeline for propagating from the charts repo to a real environment.
Sure, that can be one option.
Okay.
So the thing is, what I'm trying to think about right now and what's kind of keeping me up at night is I don't want a repeat of an omnibus situation in our infrastructure, right? I don't want like this big bulky thing just dumping everything on us. I want to have a framework where, you know, for example, we have several layers. Say, if the Helm chart is stable enough, I want to have all of our different components, say Gitali, say GitLab Shell, Workhorse, and whatever, be built by developers in their own pipelines, in their own little world, right? And I want that we have enough stable environments before staging that anytime they push, things get rolled into these environments so they can test changes all they want. And then we have a checkpoint on staging where we're going to say everything that you did in the past, I don't know, a day or so, is now going to be deployed in bulk on staging. And that's going to roll through the rest of the environments. And all of that somehow automagically done, hopefully with GitLab features as well, so that we can dog food properly.
Okay, but
I'm sorry, go ahead, Alessio.
Okay, thank you, Jar. So I'm still a bit confused because if we think about the charts, so this means that I'm working on some change on the charts. I merge this, and then I trigger a pipeline, let's say, and we go through this several environments, let's say, and maybe then we have a gate before reaching staging where someone has to push a button or approve it. So, okay, this is clear. I don't get how this works before. If you think about developers X adding features to Gitly, for instance, because this is way before building an Helm chart. So how can a developer that is just working on a feature get this into a real environment?
So they would also ensure, like, if there is any backing that needs to happen from the Helm chart side, right? Like if the feature depends on a configuration inside of the chart, it's similar to what we have in Omnibus right now. Like they need to submit a change in Omnibus, but they will also need to think about how do they ensure that this is in a backwards compatible way. So whatever change they made in Omnibus/charts, let's say in charts, that is going to land in all of the environments at the same time. Helm is going to be just the charts are going to be serving, they're going to be the plate. I want to see like whether we can make sure that the developers, by building their own images, can just use the charts that way. So sure, you're not going to be able to deploy a change if you don't have the backing of the chart, but you can do that in the chart first, get that rolled to the environments, everything is fine, and then you roll your change with your new image from your project.
Yeah, because the thing I was thinking about is that if we think about the review apps, okay, and we built on top of this concept, so we can have a branch on GitLab CE, whatever it is, which introduce a feature, and then you have a branch on the charts that build the configuration for this, or even just change the building image from the custom branch, and then you can deploy this somewhere. But this has to happen before someone hit merge button.
Yeah, that needs to happen.
It's late after.
Right, and there's also one thing that I would like to avoid compared to our current review apps. Our current review apps are very much in step lock, meaning every single image that we have, because every single image that we have that we built for GitLab is very much tied to the Helm chart version as well. And we need to be looser with versioning. We need to figure out how to properly version to allow developers that they don't need to roll the whole new environment every time something is deployed. That's what's happening with review apps. Because we are so step locked, Gitly cannot do a change without changing everything else inside of the application. That's not good. Like, we want to do microservices like things, so let's think about how we can actually do that. Does that mean that we need to build a new versioning system inside of GitLab? I suspect so.
It sounds like it. Like, I could think of 3 complete whole concepts that we need to talk about in order to make something like that achievable. Because right now we're relying on Helm charts to deploy everything. And if we make a change to, say, Gitly, we would have to do exactly what Jarv did and modify our values file to push that change out to get that version of Gitly out there. We need to separate that concern from a values file if we want to enable developers to be able to deploy a later version of Gitly out into the future. That removes us from dogfooding our Helm charts the way our customers would, to a certain extent. And we would have to figure out how to make that work appropriately and still make it such that if we need to rebuild a cluster, for example, we've got the ability to pull in whatever version we desired at that moment in time. I had another bullet point in my head, but I forgot about it by now.
I have, like, one thing I would love to do, especially for registry, right? I think we can probably write tests that can exercise registry adequately, that we could enable CI for chart changes that hit master. We automatically deploy to staging, we do some tests against staging, and then we just deploy to prod. And you would have a Helm upgrade pipeline. It works for registry because registry is decoupled from Rails, and is pretty easy to validate. as we think of other components.
And use that as a model.
Use that as a model. And I think as we like, could we do things where like, if certain subdirectories of the charts change, then that triggers a deployment for registry. Like if the registry directory changes in the chart, then that as soon as that change hits master, then it triggers a pipeline of the K8 workloads, and then we update registry or something like that. I mean, that's possible, but I think for now with just registry, I would feel super comfortable to create a pipeline that runs on every single commit, like every single merge to master, we do a Helm upgrade as long as we have tests.
Okay.
Like why not? You know, like I think we can validate registry easily, and I'm sure, like I would feel comfortable with that.
So, how about we do a step, like I would like to introduce something that we don't have right now. We only have staging, pre-canary, and production canary and production, right? How about we use this opportunity to introduce 1 or 2 steps before staging to do this type of thing, and find a way how we can automatically verify certain things that will give us enough confidence that we deploy to staging automatically, and then the rest we can do manually. I'm not sure if I'm making sense. Let me try to rephrase. We've been using this model of staging is our first environment. We don't want that because we know the problems there. We want to unlock developers to be able to deploy to other environments where they cannot, they can clash all they want. It's not a problem, right? If we do something like this where you have testing and every commit upgrades, that is fine. But if we can make a system that will then, before I go to staging, let me check the state of affairs. Let me check if everything is right. Or let me check if QA is executed correctly, if we have no failures. If we do, create a report and ask for manual intervention before you go forward. Like, I'm trying to find a way to get what we try to achieve with our auto deploy, but do it properly now that we have a fresh environment, right?
Yeah, I think for registry, it's super simple because we can spin up an ephemeral cluster and connect it to staging and test it, right? And if that succeeds, then we promote it to the actual cluster in staging. But registry is a special service. I mean, other services are not going to be so easy.
Well, they're not going to be easy. We are starting with an easy service so we can know what we can do, right?
We could do it, and we could do it with the front end too, probably. I mean, right? We could have an ephemeral cluster that we spin up that connects to the staging database, that connects to staging giddily, everything, right? And we validate it, and then if it looks good, we tear it down, then we promote to staging for real, and then if that looks good, then we go to canary and then production. So I think ephemeral cluster would be the way to do it.
Yeah, this really sounds like a blue-green deployment as a gate between stages instead of just a blue-green regular deployment. So this is...
It does.
Yeah, it's actually running tests on a real environment. So you have to have QA, and if it works, you go. The thing about the ephemeral cluster for registry, I think that we need to start from a well-known set of images already existing in that set environment, because one of the things that you want to make sure is that the new version will not blow up the images that you already have. But if you run your tests in a clean environment, then you never exercise the, will my old images still be available after I upgrade?
Wouldn't this just be connected to the same object storage bucket that the actual registry is connected to?
Okay, so you are ready to lose stuff if the test doesn't work, or if, I mean,
I think like losing things is probably a low risk for staging, right? Okay. Like I think this is, the idea would be like, we spin it up, we do some validations, we spin it down, and then we upgrade to the actual staging registry, and we do some more validations, and then we actually...
yeah, but
right, and the idea is like, if you lose something in that process, everything needs to halt and scream, right? Alarm need to go off. Why did you lose things? Like, that makes no sense. Like, what caused the problem? Stop the world. Like, that's the idea, at least.
Yeah, sure. But I was thinking that if we have a thing that is more robust, then we can also use this for production later on. But if we are not testing, let's say something that is enough robust, you will have to invent something else when you're going to do this kind of automated promotion from production. This was my thinking.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. I think we have a bit of freedom to experiment right now to see what would work best, honestly. So, okay, let me ask this, to all of you. What is our actual next step according to you, just based on what we saw in this call? What would you like to have as a next step?
I would like to eliminate some of the tech debt that we've kind of acquired over the past few weeks. Some of it I created a merge request in last night to help resolve the fact that PRI is slightly different, but we've got the situation where the alert manager configuration has two separate configuration areas, whether it be in Chef or whether it be in our runbooks repo. I think it would be wise to continue or build up a set of Grafana dashboards in a succinct manner so that we have a place to view all of our charts. Jarv just sent me a private message, so that'd be something we should be able to address inside of our dashboards, and maybe start creating the necessary alerts as well. Because right now, if registry has a complete problem and the pods just start getting stuck in a crash loop, we don't have an alert for that, for example.
Okay.
So we need to create that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would say that we need to do that. And I mean, we could start going through like a production readiness review now to kind of see where the gaps are and what boxes we need to tick before going to Canary. Obviously, alerts are a big one. Yeah, I'm not sure if this idea of having a deployment pipeline is probably something we can think about a bit later. Like we don't have to worry about it now, but yeah, I think Skarbek's spot on with just like cleaning up some technical debt we have.
We still have a few issues tied to our, I think it's Epic number 70, where,
Yeah.
like the memory issue for the registry is one that's still open, for example. And there's also a few items that we want to clean up for creating a central repository for all the CI images that we utilize.
Mm-hmm.
I think addressing some of the items in this document would be wise to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe start thinking about how we want to deploy Canary, whether that be its own dedicated cluster or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it probably will be, but I think it's worth considering what kind of stuff we need Canary to do and be and such. Something else I would love to try to revisit is a method of slowly rolling traffic over. Currently, the way our Chef works right now is that either we're sending traffic to the GKE cluster or we're sending it to our virtual machines. I don't think there's a way that we could currently say, let's just move 1% of traffic towards the GKE infrastructure versus the virtual machines.
Oh, that would be actually very useful.
Yeah, especially with our larger applications. I agree.
Okay. This is a lot of work, by the way. You listed quite a lot of things.
Kubernetes is not a simple platform. We're taking existing infrastructure. And
I'm sorry, what are you talking about? Have you ever been to any KubeCon or read any news item? Kubernetes is the future, man. It's super simple. Alessio, do you have any ideas based on what you've heard?
Yeah, I mean, this is my first attempt into this, so I'm just not so much into the context. But yeah, I would say that observability, as the other said, comes first, so that when we enable something, we need to make sure that we can check what happened. So yeah, that's one.
All right. How about this? I know all of us are kind of dying to get this in front of real traffic as soon as possible. I want us to definitely build proper dashboards for this, right? We already saw here, just in this small test, how things can go wrong. So I think that should be our focus number one. So get that thing spot on. Then once we have that, we can actually enable this properly in, well, no, we cannot enable it because it's already enabled in staging. We can work on figuring out how to roll the traffic properly, right? Like how do we do percentage rollout instead of yes or no type of thing, just so we have some controls in our hands before we start proper testing. And then work on eliminating the tech debt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Maybe we should just get this in issues and attach it to the Epic. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so checkpoints. Let's talk about checkpoints. What do you think is doable, for example, for the next week? So keep in mind, next week, you're still not release manager, so you don't have to deal with any of this stuff, so choose wisely.
I think, personally, I think like maybe by Tuesday or Wednesday, I would like to have the alerting figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, then I would say we should have I would say by the end of next week, we should have a draft of the production readiness review and have a pretty good idea of what needs to get done before we can enable this in Canary. Maybe we can also shoot for next week, also building out the cluster in production so that you know, it's ready to go.
I would hold off from the production story for now, because just based on the conversation we had today, there is quite a lot to do before we can even think about that.
Probably, yeah.
So, okay, let's do that. Let's say, you said mid next week, figure out alerting.
Yeah.
Production readiness by the end of the week. And then let's say week after that, draft of, or rather plan for tech that cleanup. Possibly we will need to see whether there is any interest in other SREs helping us out with that tech debt, because that would give them a great opportunity to get involved. What better way to learn the system than actually have a task that is as useful as tech debt, unless the two of you are very set on doing that. Would that make sense? Like week after, week 2, I guess.
Sense to me.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a bit of an unknown with the alerting stuff, but hopefully we'll have a really good idea by next Wednesday.
Right. I would ask you to leverage as much as possible knowledge of other SREs. They're here. So Ben is now an SRE. Get him involved. He loves to help out. So why not? As long as all of this is in issues in Epics and somehow organized through that, everyone should be able to jump in and help out if they want to, obviously. Do you, like, I don't want to decide who does what. You can do that between the two of you. Checkpoint for me would be, let's talk about next Friday before I leave for San Francisco. we have another call like this, because I don't know about you, but I found this extremely useful. Let's have another call next Thursday, Friday, to see where we are at and make the plan for the weeks after.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
Guys, thanks a bunch for this. And sorry that it went over, but I think it was spot on. So this is amazing. I really like how this shaped up. So great job, both of you. I think you did an amazing job here. All right, we'll chat later. Expect your face to show up on YouTube as soon as this is uploaded.
Let me know, because I've when I spoke in the DNA meeting yesterday, there's some people that are interested in seeing just this. So I think it'd be wise to share it.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, chat with you later. Bye.
Have a good one.